everyone, it's Christina here from Hot Pizza, and this is your relationship support podcast where we investigate the inner workings of relationships to help you get the happy, healthy, hot pizza relationship you deserve. This podcast cuts through relationship confusion with fresh new perspectives so you can stop wasting time, energy, and effort in an unhappy relationship and move forward either in it or without it. Let's get this pizza party started. Welcome back to the Hot Pizzeria, where we have talked about cold pizza, how none of us deserve cold pizza, how to assess your relationships for cold pizza. And if you have found that you are being served and you are accepting and eating cold pizza, there are only 3 decisions that you can make from that discovery. And those decisions are: 1, keep accepting and eating the cold pizza even though you know that it's cold pizza. 2, send the pizza back to the kitchen to be reheated and brought back to you as hot pizza. 3, if that pizza keeps coming back to you and it is still cold, leave the pizzeria. Now, last week we discussed option 1 and why you might decide in the short term to accept some more cold pizza, but why it's not a good idea long term. And we know from research that people who live in unhealthy relationships report 35% more of chronic illness than the rest of the population. We also know that unhealthy relationships shorten your life expectancy, and that even just one snarky comment from your partner raises your blood pressure. So the second option is to change the dynamic in your relationship by changing the way that you deal with cold pizza. So now it's time for your story from yours truly to highlight this point and to tell you from my own experience, my learning from that, and how I have learned now to really successfully ask for the pizza to be reheated. So in 2004, I've been married for over 10 years. My partner and I had gotten into a pretty bad habit of arguing. We would argue over big things and little things. The arguments were hardly ever resolved. We just were in this bad pattern of like arguing, and then life kind of trundled along for a bit and then arguing. Now, one day in 2004, when we were taking my son to sports, husband and I are arguing. I don't know what we're arguing about, some crazy little thing. We're walking out to the car from inside the house and we're arguing as we go along. And we get into the car and buckle up, and my son says from the back of the car, "Please stop arguing." Now that really stopped me in my tracks. And I thought, you know what, he's right. We shouldn't be arguing like this in front of the children. This is not the life that I want my children to have, listening to us arguing. I have always wanted my family to be a peaceful, safe, and calm, loving, joyous place. And that is not what is going on in this dynamic. And I have been part of that. So I'm contributing to that stressful environment. So you know what? I am going to do something different. I am going to stop arguing. So that is what I did. However, just simply stopping arguing didn't help my partner to stop arguing. So we still had these issues in our relationship where he would express his opinion and I just kind of didn't really respond. And therefore, I was not being heard. I was not being listened to. I wasn't being heard. My needs weren't being said. I thought that they were clear, but they weren't. And so what happened eventually after this is, because I stopped calling out cold pizza and stopped, trying to kind of push back on being served cold pizza, I ended up getting served more from not saying that I was getting it, because the behavior went unchecked, and unchecked behavior will only increase. What you do with young children, sometimes you ignore their bad behavior and reinforce good, positive behavior, and hopefully that bad behavior dissipates. That is not what happened, as I was dealing with an adult. So the behavior actually kept coming along, and I kept being served cold pizza, and it got more intense. So instead of behavior getting better, unchecked cold pizza got worse and worse and worse, and more and more and more, until I ended up in a pretty bad state in another 10 years' time. And if you have not watched my hot pizza keynote speech on YouTube, watch that to understand what really happened in that dynamic. So by 2013, I was really in a bad way. And I thought, you know what? Like, we're in a really bad state. I actually really don't know what to do about this. And I didn't feel like my views would be heard by my partner if I just clearly tried to express them, because I had tried that before, and I was scared actually of my partner's reaction if I really tried to say, this has to stop, right? And that's a whole other discussion, the fact that I was a bit scared to do that. So anyways, what I did was I decided that even though I didn't feel like what I would say verbally would get across to him, I thought I'm going to try writing him a letter that clearly expresses what is going on in our relationship, how it's not healthy, and that it needs to change. And so I did that. I literally wrote it in a letter, very clearly, very concisely said, and very carefully phrased. I phrased it as being, our angry behaviors were toxic, that they were destroying our relationship, they were destroying our family, and we really needed to change that. And here's the weird thing. He actually agreed with me. He read that letter and he came and spoke to me and said, I actually agree with you. And then suddenly, miraculously, changed his behaviors. But then, you know what happened? I got really angry, because I realized something very, very, very important. I realized from that anyone can decide to change their behaviors. And I realized that my partner had chosen, over years, had chosen to serve me cold pizza. And I realized that he could have chosen to serve me hot pizza anyway, anywhere along that journey, instead of me having to, really implore him in this letter. And that made me mad. And the reason it made me mad was because I had this inkling that kept growing, that if somebody really, really loves you, they will change a behavior that is making you unhappy, sad, squashed within the relationship. But he had not decided to do that until I really, really, really implored him in that letter. So my takings from that are: 1, don't just accept cold pizza because it will only get worse and worse and more intense over time. 2, people can change their behavior if they want to. Your behavior is not their personality. You are not asking somebody to change themselves or their personality by asking them to change a behavior. And 3, they will decide whether they want to change that behavior or not. And if they care about you enough, they will change that behavior to make you happy and to nurture the relationship. So it's not about getting everything that you want. It's about the behaviors being displayed within your relationship that nurture the relationship and help the relationship to grow rather than killing it off. So I learned very important things about asking for the pizza to be reheated. You have to be very clear. You need to be very unemotional, and you need to be very concise. You need to stop complaining, but you need to ask for what it is that you need or what it is that you want in this relationship to be served hot pizza. If you need any more clarity around this, and we will discuss it further along in these episodes, but if you want to talk to me personally about that and how you can go about that more successfully in your relationship, just go to my website, www.myhotpizza.com, and book in for a free chat with me where we can talk about your situation and help you with your ways forward with that. So, my dear, this is about clearly, concisely, and very unemotionally asking for what you need in your relationship and asking your partner to serve that up to you in your relationship for the sake of the relationship. And it's not to change that person. You're with that person for a reason, right? You liked them for some reason. You love them for some reason. And you don't want to change the innateness of them. But bad behaviors destroy a relationship. Cold pizza destroys relationships. So send that pizza back to be reheated. And in our next episode, we're going to talk about what happens when it keeps coming back cold and what your choices are from that point. Because you, my dear, however it happens, you deserve hot pizza. Subscribe and like or follow here so you never miss a hot pizza bite, because you deserve the whole hot pizza.